Hello, I'm EX2Cat and welcome back to another second channel video. Today I'm going to be making another one of these Hearthstone slash vlog fusion style videos, and while I was making my first take, my cat decided to join, so just in case you see a tail swish about like you can right there, that's what that is. Anyway, I figured I'd talk about zero drops and exactly why they suck in today's video, because in theory there's two zero drops. They're kind of rare actually. There is the Wisp and there is the Target Dummy. In theory, both of these cards actually do bring something to the game, right? Because even though you might hear people say this is a joke, they offer infinite value. If you play them on a turn, no matter what tiny value you get out of them, they've given you infinite return on the mana you've played, because they've costed 0, right? Divide by 0, you get infinite, and blah, 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 infinite value, yay, right? But that's not entirely the case, and explaining why is something cool that might teach you a thing or two about Hearthstone. Hopefully this is something you enjoy, and let's get straight into the video then, shall we? So let's explain why they could be amazing, just in case you're not sure. Obviously, in Hearthstone, you get 1 extra mana per turn. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. And you want to make the most out of each turn. If you wait till turn 4, you're going to do awfully, because you have to reverse 3 turns worth of their stuff and do something great to, get their next turn 4 out of the way. It basically means, waiting a long time to play any good cards is kind of death for any deck. So you need to be playing cards on any real turn, and you need to be doing a better turn than they can, which is, why, you want to be playing a good minion, and why these cards could be great, because playing something 0 cost means... the tail keeps whacking me in the neck. Playing something that's 0 cost means you can play that alongside any of your regular turns and just get bonus value, right? If you want to play, a Crocodisc on turn 2, you can have a Target Dummy with it, and that would protect it, right? Which is great, because it's free. Or you could play a Wisp on your turn 1 and have... a Wisp on your turn 1 and have 2 cards there. Great stuff, right? Not entirely. So, the reasoning behind why these aren't great turns to play, even though it is, again, it's free, infinite free value, is because of the fact that there is, a second thing to consider that a lot of people don't, and that, this is even me, like, when I first started, and it takes a while to learn, that as well as having the mana cost of a card to bear in mind, you have to bear in mind the fact that every card you play is a card played, and that sounds ridiculous, but in a card game, the more cards you have, the more kind of power you have. Obviously, it's not right now power, it's kind of more for the future power, but it means, that, the more cards you have, the more options you can make, and the more optimal plays you can make. So, if you only have 1 card, the only thing you can do that next turn is play that or do nothing. If you have 10 cards, you can probably have the precise answer you need to their thing, and therefore having more cards is better. That's something you just need to bear in mind. And having these cards in your deck, either that, you can only have a max of 4, 2 copies of each, but having these cards in your deck, these aren't the things you want to draw as an answer to something. Like, these can't answer any problem, and that's the big problem for them. Like, if a 0 cost spell, which like the rogues have, which does some amount of good, where it's like, oh, do 2 damage to an damage enemy, like, that kind of makes sense, because they can combo off it anyway, and even then it's not amazing. But if it's zeroed and it does next to nothing, then it's not so great. So take the Wisp here. Let's start with the Wisp. The reason the Wisp is so awful is because it costs a card, even though it costs nothing on that card. It gives you not too much in return. I mean, it has 1 attack and 1 health. So if they leave it alive, it's got a whole 1 damage to do to them. If they leave this alive for 30 turns, they will die to face damage. But besides that, it's very easy to take out, and even if it doesn't get taken out, it's it's not too great. So not only is this easy to take out, so it can be taken out with the Mage Hero power, any creature ever, any spell ever that does damage, basically anything ever can take this card out. Not only can it take out anything, but a lot of, things gain from this. So if you think about Mortal Coil, the Warlock spell, they can draw a card when they take out this card. If you think about, like a Grim Patron, they summon another Grim Patron. Acolyte of Pain, get a free card. There's so many different, things that 1 damage isn't great for, and, being able to take this out can be good for the enemy in a lot of cases. Even if it's not good for them, like I mentioned, you've got 1 attack. You might argue this card's really easy to buff, so it's great for that reason. I think the cat left me, but, yeah, you might argue that because the card's so easy to buff, that's why it makes it great. But because this has no extra tags, this isn't a beast, this isn't anything like that, this is just as easy to buff as any other card, and those cards would be okay to start with. I mean, any other 1 health, even if you've got a 1-drop, all the 1-drops that are good actually all have some good thing that happens when they die. If you think about the Leper Gnome, it does 2 damage to their face. If you think about the Clockwork Gnome, it gives you a spare part. All these good things you get from cards are just things that happen. So something you got to bear in mind is the Wisp, it does nothing when it dies, it doesn't do much when it's alive, and it costs a card. So that's why this card sucks. The reason the Target Dummy sucks, on the other hand, is this is a card that could be great in theory. So let's try and devil's advocate, I guess, at first. So it's 0 to 2, which is probably the best addition for stats, because like I mentioned, one health on the card on the right there. Wait, is that... Yeah, that's the right there, where my hand isn't, except... Oh, there's my hand. Look, I'm kind of stroking the Wisp here. But, I'm way too impressed with overlays and stuff. But yeah, the Wisp over here, it's 1-1, so it's the same distribution of same number of stats, but it's way better distributed because dying to 1 is just so easy. Anything in the game can do that. But dying to 2, on the other hand, is not everything, it's just most things, and it means that because it's got taunt, you have to take this out first. So because it's a target dummy, that means it protects something, and because it's a mech on top of all of that, it synergizes well with mechs. So if you have, there's a card that's buffed by 2 damage when there's a mech on the board, this does that too. Turn 1, you can have a 3-2 and a 0-2, not bad. If you think about combining this with an Iron Sensei, which is a rogue card, you can get +2/+2 every single turn that you leave this alive. That's pretty good if you ask me. I think I'd like +2 on this card. Plus a 2/4 taunt that can protect the thing buffing it. That's pretty amazing. There are some combos involved in this, but even in spite of that, you're still not going to be doing too much good with this. And the reason you're not going to be doing too much good with this card is because of the fact that you don't get that much. You get a single blocked attack, which isn't worth a card. There are so many other ways to block a single attack. If it's from a minion, you can just deal damage to them with a real spell. If you just think about spending 1 more mana, you can get either a 1-2 or a 0-4. If you think about spending 2 more mana, you can get Divine Shield and Taunt. There's so many better cards you get for just the tiny bit more, that really this card doesn't offer too much value. So, yeah, the reason 0-drops suck is because they're taken out really easily. They're both taken out in 1 hit, the target dummy sometimes too, and in reality, that's not good enough value for a card in this game. Even given the fact that you can only have some of them, so you're not going to draw them anyway, even if you could draw them with guaranteed certainty, being able to just block 1 attack isn't good enough for a card. Being able to do 1 damage isn't good enough for a card, and only in very specific niche case decks where they're buffed by very specific minions can these things do great. And even then, they're never going to be competitive. They're just fun decks. So, yeah, as far as 0-drops go, I think a 0-drop is never going to be successful because unless it's a card which is good enough that it could be worth a little bit more, I think the game is never going to be that fast, because it's a very fast game right now, but it's never going to be that fast that, you need to play so many cards per turn that you don't care how many you have left in your hand, because you're not lasting to turn 4, and that's why I think 0-drops suck so much. So, yeah, that's kind of my theory there. Hopefully you learned something along the way. As a fun little... Where did the cat go? She went missing, but, as a fun little kind of bonus, I think some things they could do to make a decent 0-drop is to give it something, interesting, to make it something that isn't necessarily good all the time, but could work with an interesting deck and get speed going. So if you think, the target dummy is close to that, 'cause like I mentioned, it can be buffed by a lot of stuff. If there was like a 0-1 where you draw a card when you Death Rattle draw a card, that's awful because it's just a cycle. But if you combine that with doing a Death Rattle twice, you draw 2 cards for 0 cost. That's amazing, right? If you combine that with just a deck which you want to be getting the right cards to make a combo, it means that for 0 you can draw another type of card, which means basically put a card back into the deck if you can kill it. And there's a lot of really cool opportunities like that you could do by having a 0-cost mana minion that does something, just not all the time. So, okay, let's talk about a 0-cost mana minion that's 1/1 with charge. I mean, that's just 1 damage, but it costs 0, right? There's so many ways you could do this stuff, but the 0-drops we have right now, not good enough to see play, and I don't think these cards will ever really be in any real deck. That target dummy might if mechs get even more amazing than they are right now, but the Wisp is just... So yeah, hopefully you learned something in the video. If you did, that's great. Let me know in the comments down below. Share it if you really liked it. Oh wait, no, that's my main channel outro. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye. Second channel, don't care.